Hi there, thank you so much for joining me today. We are in a new location, we're in our new home, and I don't have anything decorated or set up, but I do have my vanity set up. I'm not sure if I'll film here or if I'll film somewhere else. So I took a little break because we were moving, and now that I have enough stuff set up that I can start filming again, I wanted to start with an eyeshadow bingo, and the bingo will include my two March focus palettes. And that is the Juicy Olive from Give Me Glow and the Natural Lust from TooFaced. What I'll do is I'll start with 4 shades and I'll randomly generate 4 shades, and if I want to choose a 5th one I can, but if I want to just keep it at the 4 I'll do that. And then once we've picked our 4 shades I'll bring you in closer and we'll create the look together. So I have my Pretty Random app open and I have it labeled from 1 to 36 because there are 36 shades that I can choose from. And I'm just going to randomly generate and see what we get. Okay, so I randomly generated 4 shades and all 4 of them were from the Natural Lust palette. I rolled a 5th shade. It was again from the Natural Lust palette. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to pick 2 shades from each palette, and that way I get an even mix. The whole point was to create a look using both palettes together, so I should have thought about that beforehand. Obviously with this palette having 30 shades and the Juicy Olive having 6, I'm much more likely to generate shades from this palette just looking at the odds. The probability was not on my side, so I'm going to re-roll. So I'm going to start with the first 6 from the Juicy Olive palette, and I have my maximum as 6 and my minimum as 1. And the first shade is number 6, which is this corner shade here, Vodka Teeny. Really beautiful mid-tone matte olive. I love this shade. Super pigmented and beautiful. And then the second shade from that palette is number 3, which is a shimmer, and it's the shade Shaken Not Stirred. And I'm glad I'm getting a shimmer and a matte from this palette. I think they're gonna go really great together, and very much excited to play with these colors. This is such a beautiful palette. So in my spreadsheet I have all the shades from the Natural Lust palette in alphabetical order, and I have all the shades from both palettes in a list. So 1 through 6 are from the Juicy Olive, and then 37 through 36 are from the Natural Lust. So I'm actually going to make my minimum 7 and my maximum 36, and then I have the shades on my spreadsheet. So the 2 shades that I'm going to pull from Natural Lust are number 18, and the first one is called Hard to Get. Ooh, and Hard to Get is this shade right here on the edge. It's a shimmer shade and it's kind of like a neutral bronze color. That is really pretty. And then the second shade from the palette is number 30, and number 30 is the shade Sex Drive, which is this coppery shade right up top here. It is slightly more pink and less orange than maybe On Fire, which is definitely more of like a true coppery red. If you look at it compared to the one above it, which is Hard to Get, that's more of like a bronze, and then Sex Drive is more coppery, but it's not like super orange. Okay, so I have 3 shimmers and 1 matte to work with. All right, so I'm gonna bring you in a little bit closer and we're gonna figure this out together. I do have a little bit of concealer on my lids, and then whatever cream bronzer and blush I have on the rest of my face, but I don't have anything setting my lids, so I am gonna put on some of this Ulta eyeshadow primer. Pretty much every time I wear eye makeup I wear an eyeshadow primer, so this is just like a step that I don't want to skip. And then I'm gonna take a fluffy brush and then this top matte shade from the Natural Lust palette, that's the shade Buff It Out, and I'm just gonna put that in the crease. I just want to have a little bit of powder down to make it easier to blend. What I'm gonna do is my gut reaction is to take the olive and put that in the crease because it's the only matte. What I think I'm going to do instead is focus the olive shades on the lower lash line and then focus on the bronzy coppery shades on the top half of my eyes. And that way it's a little bit separate, and then maybe all 4 shades will get a chance to be a noticeable part of the look. Because I worry if I put all 3 of these shimmers on my lid, they're gonna blend into each other and kind of get lost. I'm gonna take the same brush that I was using to set my lid, and I'm gonna add a little bit more of that Buff Out shade on the lower lash line to also set that, because I did not set my under eyes. I didn't set my concealer. And I do have a little bit of mascara on, but it's just a light layer and I'll probably go in and add more later. Okay, so I'm going to start with this middle matte shade here. This is the shade Call Me Back. It's a warmer orangey brown, but it's a little bit more of a mid-tone. I'm going to take a little bit of that on this fluffy brush and just put that in the crease to get started. I'm going to grab that hard to get shade, that bronze, on a fluffy packer brush. Make sure that there's not like a ton of extra on the brush. Wet it with a setting spray. And then tap it on the outer half. This is a really pretty color. It kind of reminds me of Antique Bronze from the ABH Modern Renaissance palette, where it's kind of like a little bit of a satiny shimmer and it's bronzy. It doesn't have as much purpley undertones as the one from the ABH one, but I would use them the same way. Probably I would just put it all over the lid into the crease on the lower lash line and just have it be a one and done look. I know it looks a little messy right now, but we'll come back to it. Using that same brush, I'm just gonna wipe it off on the towel in front of me, and I'm gonna go into Sex Drive, which is that more coppery shade. I'm losing light. The clouds are coming out. I'm gonna wet the brush again with that Sex Drive shade and put that on the first half of the lid. This is very pretty, this color. I don't really go for coppery shades. I just don't feel like they're the most flattering on me, but I'm liking it so far. Let me turn on this lamp. Is that helping? No, that's not helping. And I'm gonna wipe off my brush again just to make sure it's not wet anymore and kind of go back and blend around. Again, I'm gonna wipe off my brush and go into that Call Me Back, that orangey warm tone matte that I used in my crease first. I'm gonna go around and blend those edges. I'm gonna grab this double-ended brush. This came from one of the ABH palettes, and I'm gonna go into the two shades from this Juicy Olive palette, going in first with that matte Vodkatini, and just making sure I tap off my brush because these are super pigmented, and I'm gonna put this on the lower lash line. I have mentioned that these are my two focus palettes from March, so I've been playing with both of them, and I have found that even when I don't have a lot of time to get ready in the morning, I can just take Vodkatini, put that on like the outer half of my lash line, a little bit in my crease, sometimes just everywhere, all over the lid, crease, and lower lash line, and then maybe take one of the shimmers from the Natural Lust palette and kind of just put it on top to add a little bit more dimension, and it's a really simple but very beautiful look. Like these olives, I just feel so much like myself when I'm wearing those shades. I kind of want to just keep putting more on the lower lash line so you can see that green just even more. Okay, now for that shimmery green, I'm gonna take that same brush and kind of just go over, maybe focusing on the center of the eye. I think what I'll do is I'll take this brighter shimmer. There's two shimmers in the palette. This one is definitely more bright, more slightly neon, and I think that will look better as a brightening shade on the inner corner. So I think what I'll do is put that on the inner corner. I'm gonna take my finger and that Sex Drive, that coppery shade, I'm just gonna pack that a little bit more on the lid to add just a little bit more shine. And then I'm gonna do the same with Hard to Get, that bronzy shade, pack that on the outer portion. I love them together on the eye because it's not so coppery that it makes me look sick. It kind of tampers it down a smidge. Now I'm going to take this creamy black eyeliner pencil. This is from Essence, the Extreme Lasting Eye Pencil in the shade Black Love. I'm going to put a little bit of this in the upper inner, what is that called? Like upper inner lash line? And then take an angled brush and push it in. I don't want anything too noticeable because I want the eyeshadows to kind of not be overshadowed or covered up by the eyeliner. But I am going to add another coat of mascara. This is the Lash Paint from Tarte. This is one that I remember loving forever ago. I picked up another one and I'm remembering why I like it so much. So this is how the final look turned out. I really liked that the copper and the bronze get to kind of be separate from the green, and that way it's not all mixed together in one. There are some angles, most angles, where I think that green looks really cool on the inner corner, but then I do think that there are going to be some angles where it's just very apparent that it's dark. because even though it has a reflect to it, it is still a dark green shimmer. So, you know, maybe it would be nice to have some type of either a duochrome that flashes green or just a really, really light green shimmer shade, which I do have in my collection. I have one from my Tarte Make Believe in Yourself palette, I think the shade Marvel. So if I were to want to put green on the inner corner again, I'd probably go for something lighter like that. But I do really like how it looks. Normally when I wear olives, I want to put them on the lid because I want to give them like the most chance of being noticed because it's such a beautiful color and I really like that color on me. But I don't mind having it on the lower lash line. I think it looks nice there too. Yeah, pleasantly surprised with how this turns out. I mean, I say that every time I do an eyeshadow bingo. I'm always like, oh, I didn't know where I was going to go with it, but I ended up liking it. I do that every time. Another thing I say in every eyeshadow bingo video is that I do have a playlist. I've done several videos like this. Sometimes I'm focusing on one palette, sometimes I'm focusing on one brand. I think from now on I am going to do an eyeshadow bingo featuring whatever singles or palette I'm focusing on in that month to kind of go with my eyeshadow project pan that I'm doing in 2022. And there are quite a few people that I follow and really like their content, and they have eyeshadow bingo videos too. So I'll link those in the description box if you'd like to see more content like this. But in the meantime, that's everything I have. Thank you so much for joining me, and I'll see you in my next video.